stand by for action.
Thanks for joining me. My name is Dave Milner. I am the Unpleasant Blind Guy, and I want to welcome you to part 2 of this episode of the Unpleasant Blind Guy on EDL Radio. Now remember, if you want to contact me with comments, questions, show suggestions, Awesome American suggestions, I'm available at UBG Contact on Twitter, or I can also be found as Dave Milner or Agador, that's Aggedor, on Mumblet, the Tea Party Community, Spreely, Minds, MeWe, or Gab. Now let's begin. It's all about the chaos for the rulers and for the maybe well-intentioned people in the rank and file. It's all about political correctness, and that's where they've managed to get that wedge in there. Oh, it's only right for us to take them in. But, you know, I bring this back to what the Dalai Lama himself said, okay, over the summer. He said that Europe should be a place for Europeans, all right? You know, he and like us, like anybody reasonable, he didn't say stop all immigration. He just said that there should be a place, culturally speaking, for Europeans. And, you know, of course, you can bring that across the pond and say there should be a place, culturally speaking, for Americans and for Africans and for everybody else. There is nothing good that can come. The Dalai Lama did not say this. I'm saying this. There's nothing good that can come from civilizations experiencing ethnic cleansing because these principates that are run by unelected, shadowy figures want to bring it about just so they can bring in cheap labor and keep on enriching themselves, Jeff. And I think that's part of looking at ourselves as civilizations. You know, Jeff, you guys in the UK, again, the higher ups, the snobs, the toffs, all wanted people to, be their servants and everything like that. So they began bringing in the Mohammedans.
Peons, Dave. The upper crust-ways who calling us the peons.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but they wanted the cheap. Well, yeah, you're right, and they wanted the cheap labor. And in the United States, same thing. The people who would like to be the upper crust anyway in the United States wanted the cheap labor, so they began bringing in people from south of the border, mostly. All right, and it's come back now to bite us in the butt, and the ordinary people of both of our countries. And it's not just our countries; it's other countries that are listening. All of you guys listening in Japan, in China, okay, in Italy, in all the other countries that are listening to us. You are seeing your cultures being washed away by all these Mohammedans. It's been the same there. Yeah, bring in the cheap labor and now see what it's done. But everybody's had enough of it. Now, Jeff,
some of the countries had a chance to bring in Christians from Syria, but they refused, and they just decided to bring the Muslims instead. So, the plight of the poor Christians, they put the rights of the Muslims over the Christian Syrians. There's something wrong here, Dave, isn't there? Well, it's quite obvious. It's all about a genocide of Christian faith. It's against Christianity, period. That's it, Dave. It's against the Christianity, the faith.
Well, that's part of it, Jeff. Yeah, I mean, why I would ask, was it necessary for anyone to import the Mohammedans when there were so many Christians being persecuted and still being persecuted, by the way, in both Asia, I'll say the Middle East. I won't say Asia. I won't use the lefty speak there. And Africa. Horrible persecution going on, and yet they don't want to take them in. As you said, Jeff, there's a problem there, and it can only really be explained by people being given bribes and working to spread Mohammedanism across the planet. Now, Jeff and listeners, we do want to switch over a little bit. There was an audio put out by Paul Watson some time ago on the 10th actually of this month, and I found it very interesting. And I gave it to Jeff, and this one is a kind of introspective look at ourselves. And I think there's some good talking points to be had here. And, you know, when the left never looks at themselves, they like to say, well, I think it's time for the right to really look at themselves and examine their souls. The left never do that. And we do. That's the point. We examine ourselves and we ask why we believe the things we believe, why we do the things that we do. And once in a while, we try to correct ourselves a little bit. And that is only part of what this is about. I think this is a great audio. It is called Degeneracy. And guys, I'm going to go ahead and play this. It's about 7.5 minutes long. Jeff, if you're ready, I'm going to go ahead and play this. This will be part 1. There's 2 parts. You ready?
Yeah, go for it, Dave.
All right, guys, you are listening to the English Defense League radio show, and this is Paul Watson. Here we go.
Welcome to the age of degeneracy. The number of people dying from drug overdoses in the United States is at its highest level ever. Deaths from alcohol abuse have almost doubled since 1999. Given that America seems to be collectively more inebriated than Hunter S. Thompson on the last day of Woodstock, you'd think conservatives would be more vehement in promoting social conservatism. Instead, they appear to be doing the exact opposite. The mainstream conservative movement appears to be awkwardly crowbarring hedonistic moral relativism into its core message in a desperate attempt to appeal to younger voters.
How do you do, fellow kids?
Completely jettisoning social conservatism in the process. At this point, what are you even conserving?
You don't have to be Christian to be conservative. You don't have to be pro-life to be conservative. You don't have to hate weed to be conservative. You don't have to be straight to be conservative. You don't have to be traditional to be conservative.
Hello, my fellow conservative people. Now let me explain how being a liberal makes you a conservative. Your kids are being re-educated by predatory drag queens about non-binary genders, snorting ketamine and twerking. Abortion has gone from being a shameful last resort to a celebrated sacred virtue, and family units bonded by faith have been replaced with atomized, drug-addled, broken homes. But hey, those GDP numbers are still looking quite good, so fuck it, right? When my daughter gets jailed for dealing drugs to pansexual college kids at a gay pride parade because she couldn't afford her 3rd abortion, at least I'll still have my rugged individualism. I mean, why not capitulate on every last single social moray, given that you've thrown the towel in on virtually everything else? American conservatives would personally dress up in drag and read books to children if they thought it would raise the GDP. Why, yes, I'm pro-choice. Why, yes, I support LGBT. Why, yes, I do smoke weed. Why, yes, I am an atheist. That's right, I'm a conservative. If you are all those things, then fine. But you're about as conservative as Myra Hindley is kind to children. If you only knew how bad things really are. If you only knew how many Christian conservatives engage in the kind of lurid behavior that would put any hedonistic leftist to shame. If you only knew how many of them posture as role models for young men while living the very lifestyles that wreck young men's lives. I'm trying not to sound too preachy, but if you're going to grandstand all day about embodying the antidote to amoral, impetuous libertinism, about being a fine, upstanding conservative, then start living like one. Now, I'm not saying you can't go out from time to time and have a laugh and a drink with your mates. Believe me, I'm no Mother Teresa. I've bathed in the worldly waters of the profane on many occasions. But when public intoxication and gratuitous debasement becomes the defining characteristic of Western masculinity, something's gone horribly wrong. Most guys think it's manly to pound beers all weekend, but then they can't run more than a couple of miles or hammer out 25 push-ups. The promotion of binge drinking as manly is a marketing ploy to trick young men into forking over their hard-earned cash to a giant corporation. Beer literally converts testosterone to estrogen in your body and gives you bitch tits. So why is its overconsumption being promoted as a masculine trait? Degeneracy is a broad topic, but at its core you'll find alcoholism. And nobody does alcoholism quite like the British. Brits have the worst drinking problem in Europe. Over 1 million of them are drinking at levels that will knock 2 to 3 decades off their lives. Researchers describe this group as the most severely affected population of alcohol users, chronically intoxicated, to the extent that their organs are being poisoned and their perception is impaired on a daily basis. Unlike virtually every other country in the world, Britain is unique for having women who consume as much alcohol as men. Walk through the centre of any UK city on a Saturday night and you'd be forgiven for thinking you'd stumbled onto the set of 28 Days Later. The crescendo of mindless, screeching, scantily clad, shit-faced women and salivating, aggressive, vulgarian young men combines to create a kind of debauched, jarring cacophony that sounds like it's been ripped straight from a Lucio Fulci horror movie. In England, there is scant difference between the sound of people enjoying themselves and people being murdered. If the English disease used to be football hooliganism, it's now been replaced by hooliganism of a different kind. A putrid, visceral onslaught against everything that's pure and decent. But Brits aren't content with keeping their degeneracy in-house. No, no, no. They export it all over the world.
19,000 people sought consular assistance last year, according to the latest figures by the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, into British behaviour abroad.
One of their favourite things to do is to get drunk and urinate on war memorials. According to the mayor of Riga in Latvia, this is their speciality. Brits also love to inflict their barbarism on Spain, where residents in Mallorca are so sick of their loutish behaviour, graffiti has appeared all over the capital which reads, "Tourists go home," and "Tourist, you are the terrorist." In Barcelona, locals staged huge protests demanding British people leave. ISIS expressed their distaste by slaughtering a bunch of Brits on a beach in Tunisia. That was a bit much. Visit Benidorm. It's like the human equivalent of one of those safari parks where monkeys sling shit at you, furiously masturbate in front of your children and steal your windscreen wipers, only with British people. Lovely. Meanwhile, in a Magaluf nightclub, a British teenager was filmed performing oral sex on 24 men in return for a free holiday. She ended up winning a $5 cocktail. Why do you think giant transnational corporations and the elitists who run them constantly promote binge drinking, lottery tickets and gambling? To make vast amounts of money, yeah, but it's also to ensure that the underclass remains mired in its own self-indulgent, self-destructive deterioration. It's kinda hard to be upwardly mobile when most of your time is divided between pissing away your disposable income in the betting shop, being completely paralytic, and waking up in a pool of your own vomit. And despite there being no widespread binge drinking culture in America, when you extrapolate out Americans' drinking habits, about half of American women would be considered alcoholic, and about 70% of men would be borderline or alcoholic. So-called deaths of despair, deaths from suicide, drug and alcohol abuse, kill more Americans than those who died during the Vietnam War or at the height of the crack epidemic. Deaths from despair have doubled from 22.7 deaths of despair per 100,000 Americans in the year 2000 to 45.8 per 100,000 in 2017, easily eclipsing all prior 20th century highs. The US suicide rate in 2017 was 33% higher than just 20 years ago. Opioid deaths claim 130 lives every single day.
And there's the first half of it, guys. Welcome back to the English Defense League radio program with your host, Jeff Spider Mitchell. Jeff, your take first, brother, on that part one.
Well, it's hard-hitting it, but the truth, even though it might sound unsavoury, is the truth. That's what we're seeing. That's what we're looking into. Unfortunately, what Paul was saying is exactly that, and it's sad. It's a sad reflection of society as a whole. That people want to binge drink, do absolutely crazy things. But I suppose it's because it seems the moral fibre has gone out. The society today. It's a different society as what it was, say, 30, 40 years ago, when there was, there was more of a family-orientated thing, it seems like these days. There's no discipline in schools, you see, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately.
Oh, none.
I mean, when I went to school, probably the same as Dave. I mean, I'd done something wrong and I got the cane. People might listen and say, "Ooh, that's a bit..." Yeah, but it was it was what was, you spoil the wood, you spoil the child, and that's the oldest saying going, probably. But it's hard hitting. People need to look within themselves and look at society, where it's going, what's happening. But I still believe, just to let you know, Dave, Vulpa Bites has joined and I said hello to Vulpa, and he said, God bless you.
Hey,
so I'm just let you
God
know
bless
that
you as well, man.
Vulpa has joined the thing. Yeah, but it's hard hitting, and it's good to see, people speaking the truth like Paul's doing. It is very hard to listen to, but because the truth is, it can be. It hits you hard in the face when you realise that what Paul said was nothing was wrong. What he said, everything, he was factual, and he's got these stories that would back him up on that. And that's one thing I like about Paul Watson. He shoots from the hip. Dave?
Jeff, you're right about that. And, two things jump out at me about that one. Years ago, this had to be, might have been 5 years ago or more, I was involved with G-Ski Rocks. I would be on his program a lot of times. He didn't really have panelists, but he did bring a lot of people in a lot of times in his studio. And we did a show at that point on the vast rising number of college-age kids in the United States that were committing suicide. And you just heard Paul Watson talk about the quote-unquote deaths of hopelessness or whatever. And I think part of this is, if you want to look for a place to blame, yes, I think that, first of all, it's a lack of God everywhere. I think that avenue has been cut off to people, they believe, so they become hopeless. There's that, and it's being encouraged, the replacement of God and the comfort of family, which, quite honestly, Jeff, saved my life and the lives of many others, has been replaced with consumerism and just conspicuous consumption and constant consumption. And this brings me, Jeff, to something that Tammy Bruce, who is an author and also who has podcast for many years here in the United States of America, pointed out. All right, if you deprive people of money, you deprive them of power. All right, so if people are being encouraged to, as Paul Watson said, drink themselves into oblivion and blow all their money in betting shops in the UK or on lottery tickets here in the United States or on frivolous consumptive things like I'm going to, as far as food goes, for my birthday, on a regular basis, then they're going to have less money, they're going to have less power, they're going to have less ability to influence the world around them. And is this something that I think is being directed by the rulers of the left and the political class? I think it is, Jeff. And it is something that is partly our fault because over the years...
I believe it's so. Dave, we've got to accept a big responsibility. Our generation that has seen this, ascend upon ourselves, and we should have done something quite a number of years ago. There should have been some moral fabric that pull people together to turn away from the. I suppose you could call it debauchery in a sense, and maybe I'm over-dramatising.
Yeah, it's a bit of a debauch,
I mean, it does seem that way. It's it's tragic to see that this is. You can quite. I've got a couple of things that Paul said, and he puts things into a good perspective. I hope you don't mind, Dave. He said, first of all, Paul has said, are you aware how few political shows there are? Even fewer are conservative. A show like this one is very rare. We are in danger of going extinct. Well,
I appreciate that, man.
As long as I've got breath in my body, and we'll keep pushing on. People like Ria Bo with the Sunday Long Live radio show. Of course, don't forget Global Patriot Radio with Vito and Al, the network. People like us will always stay there. We'll fight for the last man, every breath that we got in our body. But he also goes on to say, and you don't mind, he says, British are getting super drunk. Makes total sense to me. I mean, what else would you do in response to all the insane socialism? He goes on to say, didn't the Polish and Russians turn into drunks, socialist countries? I think he makes some good points there, Dave, and that just brought us back in a round circle there, didn't it?
Well, it brings us back around to the point I was going to make, which is, as you said, Jeff, years ago, we should have had our eye on the ball closer. You know, and I've said this a few times, and I'll say it here again. We abdicated our responsibility and gave trust, too much trust, in our leaders, and we didn't have enough good ones. There weren't enough Ronald Reagans in this world. There weren't enough Margaret Thatchers in this world. And the sad thing is that the evil people in the background, the shadowy figures out there in the deep state in all of our countries, not just yours and mine, we're always in the background ready to manipulate people, right? And I think that's a big thing. Vorpalbite, you're quite correct, man. You know, and that's why we wanted to do this show, was to have a little bit of a critical look at ourselves, and we appreciate you saying that, man. Jeff, I wondered before we play part 2 of this, if you might possibly want to call back in. I know it's getting close on to the time, and I can not only play the SHR Media promos while you're doing that, but I can also play an extra promo, which we have, for Ria Bo, just to give people a little bit more of a
pretty awesome.
Of an accent on her.
Before we do, Dave, I just thought would made another comment, and I really, you know, it's good to see Wolf here, and he says in capital letters, this is as well. He said this: hopeless people tip the bottle. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think, really and truthfully, retrospectively speaking, I think it's some people feel that they're in a hopeless situation, that, as you say, they tip the bottle. That could be it. I don't know. It's something that we need to look into a little bit more, because I think you make a good, valid point there. As once again, Paul, good to have your comments, brother. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Dave.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it is a destructive thing, and you know, that's going to be the deal. Now, guys, we're going to go ahead and play the promos. First, of course, we're going to play a promo that is rather special. I'm just going to cue that up right now, because this is the promo that Ria Bo has for her network. All right, and we wanted to do that one before we did the SHR Media promos. Okay, and now, guys, this show right here, the English Defense League radio show, I'll tell you that, can also be heard at the Unpleasant Blind Guy page at Spreaker.com under the title UBG On EDL. All right, the show times for that are 1 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. That's 6 p.m. in the UK, and at midnight on Saturdays, Eastern in the United States, and that's 5 a.m. Saturdays in the UK. And if you happen to be listening to this program that way, you can also hear this show through the SHR Media YouTube page and on the Western Free Radio Network. But if you want to hear it live and you want to get in and get into the chat with Vorpalbite and some of the rest of the people we have, our normal show times, this isn't the special that we're going to run, but our normal show times and days are Thursday and Sunday at 8:30 p.m. in the UK and 3:30 p.m. Eastern in the United States. But we are going to be having a special show coming up on Monday the 30th at 4 p.m. in the UK, and that's going to be 11 a.m. in the United States. And the lady who is going to be joining us, Rhea Bowe, has a fantastic new effort that she is running now. She is really setting this thing up, and it's going to go up like the Space Shuttle, guys. We're going to start this one first. This is the English Defense League radio show, and this is the WBN promo.
Okay, so there's a shortfall of truth in the media, and there's a ton of information out there that the mainstream media will not get near. 9/11, banker occupation, the Clintons, safe and natural health information. The list just goes on and on. Enter the World Broadcasting Network. We aim to challenge censorship the tech overlords deal out daily with shows like Sunday Long Live Radio, Americanuck Radio, and the Robert Scott Bell Show. We are fighting back for you. Why? Because this is going to take all the truth tellers to push back, and WBN 324 aims to be right in the middle of the action. So just type in your browser WBN 324 and join the fight for truth.
All right, guys. Now that's the kind of thing that you can expect to hear. Okay, that is the WBN promo, and that lady is the lady who is in charge of that is going to be joining us on Monday at 4 p.m. in the UK, 11 a.m. in the United States. And we are going to be happy to be doing a show with her. It's going to be completely off the hook. Now, guys, we're going to run the SHR Media promo.
No, Dave, can I just do this before we go into our normal promos thing? Paul Proprietor said, I desperately need an 11 a.m. show. There are no more morning political shows. Well, if you stay with us this coming Monday, Paul, you will have an 11 a.m. show. So there you go, Dave. I just want to let you know what Volper just said. Okay, buddy?
All right, Jeff. Yes, it will be 11 a.m. Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern Monday, and that's 4 p.m. in the United Kingdom. Be a special show. And now, here you go, guys. These are going to be the SHR Media promos. This will take about 3.5 minutes. You guys are listening to the English Defense League radio show. Jeff, you may want to call back in.
Right to you, Dave.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunnett. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunnett.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truth on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new
show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And that is it for this time. Next time, Part 3. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for listening, and may your God go with you. Goodbye.
The Unpleasant Blind Guy is copyright 2019. Anno Domini.